Hi, good morning again. Uh, we are joining in today for another session on C++. This is our third episode, and we are going to discuss about two very important topics. One is the control structures, and one is the functions, which are there in C++ programming, right? So today we got, uh, first of all, we apologize for being late by 3 minutes. We were facing some glitch in our network connectivity, and I hope it should not persist during our webinar session. So I have a request for you in case if you find that my audio is or video is not uh, uh, in a right manner, just please let me know in the comments. And if somebody is able to confirm me that how is audio or video right now, audio is more important right now because my talking head is not that much important, but the audio is important. So if anyone can confirm us that what is the status of the audio, then we can proceed with this session. So anyways, in the meantime, you just confirm that is the audio is correct or not. So let me give you a review for yesterday's lecture. So we actually spoke about the constants, where we spoke about what are the different type of literals we have, what are the different set of signed and unsigned numbers we utilize. We actually looked at that what are the different set of particular you know keywords we use, like endl. What is the basic difference between basic endl and the character based literals? Apart from that, we also discussed a couple of things about the declaration and the corresponding types that we have. If you have, all right. So Deepak Khatri is confirming that audio is fine, but video is little blurry. Video is okay. My talking head is not that important, as I already said, but the audio should be there, because we will be moving toward the presentation and some of the demonstrations only. So let me take you toward the presentation. What I have, it's just a marker for me so that I should not be missing any of the things. So today's agenda is the control structures that I have already told you, the functions and the function overloading. In this particular session, I'm actually going to introduce you one of the very popular tool named as Raptor, which is used for the purpose of understanding, first designing the flowchart and then understanding the program constructs that are being used, right? But before that, we will be discussing about that what are these control structures and what is their significance and how the functions can be defined and all that stuff. So this is what we have. Again, the format will be same. I will be discussing about the concept during the 40-45 minutes of our webinar, and then at the last we will be taking your questions. So if during the webinar you think that there is some query comes to your mind, you can simply type in the comment section or chat section. We can take it at the end of the session, right? So let's start with our topic. So control structures in C++ are a very important thing and very important component, because they comprise, or they allows you to have certain kind of decision making instructions within your program. So that is the very first requirement for your particular construct. So these constructs are being derived from C programming. So that means whatever we have in C programming, we also utilize in C++, but with some additional attributes which are being added to those constructs. So we have sequences, we have selections, we have loops. So these are the three prominent constructs that we have. So one is the sequence, selection, and the loop. So when you talk about the sequence, so sequence is nothing. It's like while you're writing the program, so if I take you to the code block, what we did yesterday, let me bring it onto the screen. Okay, so yesterday we were working on a CPP program. Start. So we had this program yesterday, right? So this is what we had. So we have this namespace and the preprocessor section. We have the function, and then we have first number and so on. We actually looked for that how these numbers can be entered by the user, how it can be expressed in terms of addition, and then the result is saved, and then how it can be printed over to the output screen. So if you look at this particular part, every individual instruction is actually going to follow a particular sequence, right? So if I skip any of this, let's say if I do a comment on this particular these two particular line, my program will not be able to work in a right manner. It is going to display me an error because one of my variable uh, is not going to have the actual value. So yesterday I shown you that when we are not initializing the variables, just only declaring them, they will have a garbage value. So I'm only putting the second number as a 45, and you can see due to the garbage value in the first number, right, the actual sum comes out to be invalid. It's not the correct sum which is supposed to be done, right? So this is a sequence what we have. So any set of instructions uh, which you are writing, or when any algorithm or any set of actions which you are writing, that becomes a sequence for your particular program. So sequence is nothing. It is basically your particular set of instructions which are being written in any program, or maybe you write it in some function, that is again a sequence. Maybe you write in a separate code block, that is a sequence. You write in a if else code block, that is a sequence. So every set of instructions which do a set particular particular task, that is basically a sequence. So you can simply say that there will be an entry to that particular sequence, and that entry is actually going to allow you to have certain actions. So maybe action 1, that will be followed by certain more action 2, and that will be followed by certain another action 3, and maybe after action 3 you are going to exit. So what is the entry here? As per the program which we have checked, as the entry point is the main function entry point. And what could be the exit could be from the return 0 instruction that was being provided within the main function. So that is what you have in terms of the sequence. Now then comes the selection, right? So when you talk about selection actually allows you to choose at what action is to be performed based on what particular set of conditions. Okay, so when you talk about selection, you have these three constructs which you are going to have. One is if else, one is if else if, and one is switch. Now if else and if else switch does the same job. The only difference is that is this if else if is going to allow you to have multiple checks to be done in a particular sequence, right? So how it can be worked around, maybe if you have already gone through. So we have a entry point. I'm just going to show you a small demo as well in a program, but before that we should be able to visualize it. So we have a condition that is to be checked, right? So that condition could be either true, or that condition could be either false, right? Now if there is some true happens for this particular condition, then some action is supposed to be performed. So let's say action true is something that we are looking at, whereas for false we have another action, that is action 2 for the false part. Okay, so action 2 for the false part, right? So that is what you have. So in case if further you have to check any of the condition that you can check. Otherwise, you are going to exit from this particular section. So when you say exit, that means you are going to get out of that particular block only, not the complete program we are talking about. Now, another part is because this section is for if else only, whereas if I'm talking about the if else and if condition, so what exactly it could be. So we have an entry point here, let's say, and there is a condition we are going to check. Right now, this condition again can give us some true, this condition again can give us some false. Now there could be another action which can be performed correspondingly. So action, let's say 1. Whereas when the condition is false, you may check for another condition, right? And that condition again can bring you a true or false section. So maybe here you again perform certain action, whereas in this particular false, you are going to have certain condition to be checked, and this could again give you a true and again give you a false, and then maybe certain kind of action you do here and another action you do here, and finally everything is going to bring to this particular exit point. Now this is again from the exit of the block of if else if condition. Okay, so these are two different set of you can call the if else selections that we have. So let me take you to this particular part, the program again. So what exactly we are going to have is, let's say I'm going to have both the numbers, and I'm going to check that if the particular sum is going to be greater than some, let's say 100 or less. So simple if condition is going to check for some numbers. If it is greater than, let's say 100, so that's the first code block we are writing. Now there is one very specific construct we can have. So because I'm going to only have one single line, so the if construct can be very simple. We can say simply cout, and then we are using an insertion operator, and then we can simply say the sum of both the numbers is greater than 100. Right, simple as that. So we are typing in a particular single instruction, right? And whereas if it is not, then we are simply writing else, right? And in next line, what we are going to do is the sum of both the numbers is less than 100, right? So this is what you can have in a simple construct, that is this particular section I'm talking about. So I have a single entry point. What that entry point is, this, right? If sum numbers is greater than 100, and then we within that entry point we're checking the condition if it is true or false. So if the sum number is greater than 100, it will be true. That means the first code block is going to get executed. Otherwise, if it is false, the else will go for the false statement. Okay, and after this we are going to exit from this particular block and return the 0. Okay, so here what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this particular program. Right now it is going to ask me certain numbers, so I say 50 and then second number is 65. So if you look at the output, what it says, the output is the sum of both the numbers is greater than 100, right? So that's what exactly you get in terms of your condition if it is true. So if I run it again and if I display to you that what number I'm going to enter to this. So I'm going to enter, let's say 25 and then 25 again. So the number is total sum is 50, and it says the sum of both the numbers is less than 100, right? Let me see if I can show you a debug part. So maybe if I put a debugging point here, toggle breakpoint I'm putting here, and then there is another toggle breakpoint I'm going to put here. So maybe I can start the debugging window. This should be from here. Run, build and run. Okay, so if I do a run here, I'm not sure how I can put it into. I need to check what is the setting for this. How we view it. Debuggers toggle. Anyways, I show you in the later part. We can also debug this particular program and see step by step what exactly is happening corresponding to this particular program. So I'll let you know how we can debug by using this particular idea. I know for the dev C++, I'm not sure for this code block test. Anyways, so this is the typical example for the first type of the selection part, that is the if-else condition. Now, if I talk about the second part, let's say we wanted to see that if the sum of the number is greater than 50, or maybe I take it as less than 50, else if we also check if the sum num is equals to, maybe it's greater than 100, equals to 100, or else what I can do is another instruction I'm taking in. So that another instruction or action, and say between 50 and 100 within this particular part. So if I run this particular program again, if I show you what exactly is going to happen for the particular numbers. So for the very first number, so I'm entering, let's say 20. I'm going to enter 35. So you can see the sum of the, both numbers. In a tool, let me show you in the section right now. So give me just 1 minute. Okay, so that is here. So I'm actually switching between my tools. So here for the Raptor, this is what I can have. So maybe I can delete this visualization. So Raptor is a free tool. You can utilize it. If you're a beginner, this is the best tool to work around for your practice. So we have to see possible functionality corresponding to this particular program in a flow charting tool, and you will be able to understand the flow of the system. So we know that there are two inputs we are looking for, right? So this Raptor tool is going to have certain flowchart components for you. So you have input, you have output, you have an assignment, you have selection, you have loop sections, right? So we'll be practicing it inside this particular tool itself. So again, I'm going to type enter the first number. So this is great if you want to practice for your logic building process. Second, I'm again going to ask for enter the second number. So we are going to ask for the user second number, right? Now, because I need to do certain operation, then that means the assignment box will be used. So within assignment, what I'm going to do is some number, and that will be set to first number plus second number. So this is what I got. Now I need to do a selection, right? So is this filter, what we are going to check is if this sum number is less than 50, we have the condition here, right? So some number is less than 50, yes or no. If it is yes, then what I have to print is, I have to print this particular, yeah, so this particular message I need to print. So I'm just simply going to do a copy of this. So I'm writing the sum of both the numbers is less than 50. So that's it, first one. Then I'm going to do another output. If it says no, in that particular case, I need to check another condition. If this particular number is greater than 100, this is what we need to check. So some number, if it is greater than or equals to 100, right? So if it is greater than or equals to 100, that means we need to print this particular message. So I'm going to write an output box here, and we can simply type in. Okay, is it okay now? The audio is clear, Vaishnavi? So another output we are going to get, because this condition is false and this condition is false. So that means the final condition of sum is between 50 and 100. That will be over here. Great. So this is the logic which was there in our program. So in this particular flowchart, you can see this particular section, right? Now what I have to do is I'm going to go to this particular toolbar, and then I'm going to do this execute to completion, right? This is the run button which is there. So once we start the execution, you can see step by step what exactly is happening over here. So enter the first number, I'm entering 25, enter the second number. Here you can see what is the number we have entered, right? So the second number is, let's say, 29. Okay, so the sum is 54, and you can actually see how the procedure happens. So it prints, this is the output of what we have. So first condition, first we get is the sum of the number, the sum of both the numbers between 50 and 100. So step by step, if you wanted to check, so I can go for this particular button. This is step by step debugging. Then it asks for the number. So I'm entering again 25, press OK. You can see what value has been entered, then 29, then OK. Then we do the addition. You can see the sum number has been initiated, and then because the condition was false here, sum less than 50, we go to these next condition, that is sum number is greater than 100 or equal to 100. If now here, if it is no, it will go towards the other action, and then it will go to the end. Whereas if I run it once again for you, maybe I make it clear from here. I put 50 and then again 51, right? Then you can see where the procedure is getting on, right? And last, because we need to test all the conditions, one of the most important thing which you should always remember, and even in the placement interviews, they give you certain examples, and they actually ask you about that. Okay, can you check there is any anomaly in this particular program or not? And the point for them is that you need to find out that does any of the condition is not covered by that program when it is going to execute or not, right? So that's very important. So every action which you have put into this particular selection part, they all should be followed, right? So for this, again, I'm going to check corresponding to this part. So one was left less than 50, so I'm putting in 2020, and then that means the another action is performed. So all the three actions are working fine, that means my logic is also fine. Now there is a trick for new beginners. Rapid tool allows you to generate code in a few different programming languages, and C++ is one of that, right? So if I do the programming part, and if I open it by using the notepad, you can actually see the complete program has been defined, but only the types are not being provided here, right? So you actually need to provide the types, and that will work out for your particular system. Okay, so this is what you have. A very few changes you have to make for this particular program, and this program will be up and running for you. So this is one of the best tool which you can actually follow as a beginner, because it helps you to have certain pre-coded section for you, and so that you should be able to do some small minor changes and work around corresponding to your things, right? So let me bring you back to our presentation again. So we talked about if else, and we also talked about the if else if section. Now next thing that we have for our part is the switch, right, which is again a selection tool, and the selection tool is used for the purpose of considering the constant expression comparisons, right? So what exactly is this switch? So when you talk about the switch part, so switch is a keyword. I need to write it again because switch is always small, right? So switch is a keyword which has been provided as a small start, and then you have an expression for the switch, and then the switch going to have certain cases, and you have that constant to be compared. So case 1 and constant 1, the colon is to be put, constant 2, the colon is to be put here, and you may have multiple cases, and then at last you have a default section which may do some action for you. Every case will have certain actions, right? And then this is to be put inside the curly braces block. So we have a switch, we have a expression to be evaluated. Now this expression will be evaluated corresponding to these particular set of switches. So if I take the example of the previous one program, so what exactly is going to have is, we are going to have a switch here. So this is small s, and then we are going to put some number as a variable here, right? And then we have the braces, and then we'll write case. This sum number could be 50, right? This sum number could be 100 or default, right? Now the difference, if you see, between the switch and the if else condition is that switch only allows you to directly correlate with a particular constant value, right? You cannot do the range based thing on these switches. Okay, that's the very important constant which is there for the switch. Now why switch is considered in certain cases? Because it is much faster in terms of your if else condition, because the if else condition is a sequential, and in the worst case scenario it is going to go through all the conditions, whereas switch is a direct constant comparisons. There is no range based thing, so it can go towards that particular section directly and execute it, right? So let me take you to the program and show you how exactly it works out. So here, let's say if I wanted to have, let me do for the next file. You can do it in a blank file, Control Shift N. So what we are going to have, I'm going to take this particular program, I'm going to copy it in the next one, and then I'm just going to save it, cpp switch. Okay, so within this, I'm asking for the first number, second number. So maybe we are playing a certain kind of lottery here. So maybe I say switch. I'm just directly writing the code. So switch, and the expression will have the first number itself. So here, what I'm going to do is case 1, then cout u1, that's your rupees 100, and then I'm going to just do a paste, right? So I'm going to have 50, then I have 40, then I have 30, 20, and finally we have 10. And then there is a default case. And this default case is going to have cout as u1 rupees 0. And in between, I'm going to have certain cases to be typed, case 1, case 2, case 3, then 4, then 5, and then 6. 4, and then 5, and then 6. So this is what I have. So if you look carefully, we are only working with one single number, and that number is going to go through cases. This number will be compared with the constant that is being provided with the case, right? So let me check. Right now, I'm not putting any constraint. So I'm just running this particular program. And this is where I'm going to just enter 1. If I enter 1, you can see it says you won 100, you won 50, you won 40, you won 30, and all. Now, let me run it again for you. I'm just going to run it again, and this time I'm going to enter the value 3. Now it starts from the 40. Previously it starts from the view 100 and then 50 and then 40. Now here it is 40, 30, 20 and 10 and then 0. All the cases are being followed in this particular program. Now why this happen? This happens because whenever a particular case is encountered corresponding to the switch, in comparison to what your expression is trying to evaluate, this expression, any further case will be automatically followed in case if you are not putting a break statement, right? So here, if I put break, right, this is a break statement. If I put a break here, 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 and here, I'm explicitly leaving case 5 and 6 right now, okay, and I run it again for you. So here, if I enter the value, let's say 3, okay, it will only print you won 40. Whereas if I print again, do the F9 and do the compilation and run the program, and if I say case 5, because after 4 we haven't written any break statement, so you won 20, you won 10, and you won rupees 0. So every individual case after that has been executed. So break statement is very, very important. If you are not putting this particular break statement, then there is a challenge. Now next thing which you can do is, there is another trick. Let's say for case 1 and case 2, what you are considering is that you are going to give a particular customer rupees 100 as a lottery winner, right? So I can keep this case 1 and case 2 like this, so that this particular expression should be printed on the screen whenever a particular user goes through those particular cases, and after that there could be endless other cases that you can create. So there is no limit on how many cases you can create. So you can create on the basis of any of your particular set of expression evaluations, right? So one important thing that you should consider is, in comparison to if else conditions in the switch, that you can do only constant expression matching. It's not like that you can do the range matching in that particular switch cases. Okay, so that's the biggest difference between both of these if else and if else or the switch cases, right? So that brings it to the selection part, right? So here, so we've gone through the selection in terms of if else, we've gone through the selection in terms of the switches. So what next we come to is the loops. Now loops, there are 3 different loops we have. One is the for loop, one is the while loop, and another is the do while loop. Now for is basically an iterator, while is basically your what we call, it's a entry point thing. Let me see what exactly it is. While is a entry controlled construct. It is a entry controlled construct. Whereas if you talk about the do while is a exit control construct, right? So this is the basic difference between do and while in terms of technical language. But if I simply tell you, while it always does a check of the condition at the first place, whereas do while does the condition check at the last place, right? Once the action are being performed, do while will check your condition then, and once the for while, before performing the actions, the condition will be checked, and that is why we call it entry controlled, and this is the reason why do while is called as a exit condition. Whereas for is something which is going to do an iteration between the range. Okay, so range has been defined by the for loop that is there. So if we talk about their basic expressions that we have, so if I have while condition, the while will have certain expression, and that expression will be evaluated, and corresponding to that particular action will be performed, let's say like this. Then do while, we have a do, then we have a curly braces started, then we do some action, right? And then curly braces will be closed, and while whatever the expression you wanted to evaluate, that will be placed here, and correspondingly for is initial, then condition expression, and then finally increment. Okay, so that is what you have, and then you have a curly braces, and the action will be performed within that particular set of curly braces. So let me first show you how you can work it around in the particular Raptor tool. So let me bring you to the Raptor part. I'm going to have it in the next particular section. Here, what we have is, let's say, I'm going to have some certain input. Okay, I need to save it first. Test. So here I'm going to have an input. I say enter the table that you want to print. So I'm trying to print a particular table here, and let's say we call it a val as a variable. Okay, so what I need to do next is I'm going to drag and drop this loop here, and this loop is going to check, or maybe instead of not printing a table, I'm just simply going to enter the range of numbers that you want to print. Okay, so here within this particular loop, there is a condition I need to check, because we are talking about a while here, right? While we are doing the action here. So let's say I'm saying until unless val is greater than 0, right? I'm going to do the printing of value in descending order. Until unless this particular val is not greater than, yeah, it's greater than 0, or maybe less than 0, right? And then what you should do is you should do an output, right? Value is, so I'm going to do a value is plus, let's say, val, that is going to be printed, and then we are going to do an assignment. What we are going to do is val is equals to val minus 1, right? So we are going to decrement this particular value by 1 for each loop. So let me play it for you. So we are going to start, it is going to ask me a number 10, so it is going to print me the value is 10, the value is 9, the value is 8, 7, 6. This will go until unless the val is greater than 0. So that means by the time the val becomes 0, this loop is going to do an exit. Okay, so this is how the printing is going to happen corresponding to that particular part. So because we included the 0 value, that's why it has printed from 0 to 1. So this is how you can actually understand the logic of your particular construct, that how the execution is happening and what could be the possible steps within this particular tool. So this Raptor tool is free to install. This has still been updated by the developers team. You can actually go and download it from their website, and it's really wonderful tool to work around. So this is how the loop construct works for you. So this is a general idea we are talking about. So let's say if I wanted to do it in this particular program, so what I could be able to do, maybe if you want to generate it from here, let's say generate C++ program, and that C++ program is going to be opened in this particular dev C++. Oh, okay, so they have did it in dev C++, so I'm going to just copy in this particular section, and then I'm going to take this code and paste it here just for the quick purpose. So instead of val, we are going to use a first number. So if we are having a first number which is greater than which is not going to be less than 0, the particular number will be printed, and like this. Okay, so this is how it is going to look like. Now there is one very important thing which you should be considering, because you are considering while loop. You should have a exit condition as well. You should be considering that how this particular expression is going to exit in terms of your loop condition. Okay, so here what I can do is I can simply run this particular program for you. I can give some number. Okay, so I think some issue. Okay, so here enter the number. So I'm entering number 10. So it is printing some value. Okay, let me do it again. Control C. First number value is, oh, this is supposed to be like this. So I'm running it again. So it says enter the number. So I'm entering number 10. So it says value 10, 9, up to 0, it has printed, right? So here what you get in terms of your while loop. Now this condition can also be changed. If the first number is greater than 0, previously we did it for the less than, and then the not has been attached to it. Whereas here we are keeping it as if first number is greater than 0, I should be running this particular while loop. So that will also work for me. So I did a flip of that particular previous logic. So your interviewer may give you such kind of confusing code as well. So you can see the same printing has been done. The only difference is that 0 was not printed because we have actually looked for the greater than or greater than 0. So if I put equal to sign here, one small change, if I run it again for you, so if I put 10 here, you can see the 0 is also printed. So it's more or less is a logic based game for you. Okay, so this is what you can work around corresponding to your while loop. Whereas now right now, even if right now what is happening is, let's say if I do it for the 0, okay, I run it again for you, and if I enter the value equals to 0 for this particular first number, there is no printing which has been done. Okay, there is no printing which has been done right now. Now if I do a small change for this particular you know while loop, I'm making this while loop as a do while now. Instead of while here, I'm writing do, and the while will be put after this particular condition. So here, yes. So what we are doing is, first we are doing the action, and now after that we are doing the expression check. So if I run this particular program, right, and if I enter the number 0 again, okay, so I'm entering the number 0 again. So the value of 0 is printed at least once, and then if you look at this particular section, even though the number was not greater than 0, the do section was executed, whereas in case of while it could not, right? So if you want, I can show you that as well in the same program. So So here, if I do this while condition check at the top, instead of this, here inside while, inside do while, you can see what is the difference it is going to give you when you are typing in the value 0, right? So I'm entering the 0 value here, and you can say inside do while it is printing, whereas while was not at all printed. Whereas if I go for it again, if I'm going to do the execution part again, you can see if I put a number 2, you can see inside the while loop we are doing this particular part, because during the while the first number was decremented. The same number is same variable has been utilized further. That is why the printing was done only for the value 0. So this is how the program logic work for you, corresponding to your particular set of code that you do in your particular program. So that's what you have corresponding to your while and do while part. Now let's look at the for section. So here again I'm going to do the for you. So for here I'm going to have a int count variable. So if you look carefully, count is set to 0, right? And maybe is set to 0, and then it will be set to some condition. Let's say count is less than 10, and then count plus plus. Okay, so that is what I have. So for within the parentheses, initial condition, initial instruction, initialization instruction, then the condition instruction, and then the increment instruction. So these are the three sections which you have corresponding to your particular for construct. So here for printing the C out, so we are going to be inside for the value which has been printed will be equals to count right now. Okay, so I'm doing a count for the particular section. So for the time being, I'm going to do a particular commenting of this particular while section so that we can appreciate the usage of our for loop. So it is asking me number to enter, which is of no use right now. So the inside for loop, we are starting with 0 and we are going till the 9. So if I need to work out on some kind of range based thing, this is the for loop iterator which is going to be helping you out. So here what I can do is I can do it for like let's say I wanted to do a printing for the table of 2. Okay, so let's say and enter the number for table printing. So I can print any number, uh, whatever number I want to have for a particular math table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a C out, let's say first number, because we are going to enter the value in that, the first number. That is supposed to have a multiplication sign, space, multiplication, to which it will be multiplied. It will be multiplied by the count value. And what should be the output which is to be printed? That is to be printed by multiplication of first number into the count value, right? So that is what I have for printing a single line. So this is what it is going to print me out. Let's say I'm printing the table of 2 into 1 equals to whatever the output should be. And for that, I am going to do a small change here, that is starting from 1 and is going to be equals to 10. So if I run this particular part for you, so here if I'm going to print the table of 2, so 2 into, okay, so we actually missed to have a space in between them. So I'm going to have a space. Now I run it for you. So here what I have is the table of 2 will be printed, and this, oh, we did it afterwards. I'm sorry for that. So this is supposed to be printed at this particular place. Now, doing the live sessions, this is sometimes because we are short of time, I need to be quick for this. So this is for the table of 2 that is being printed because it's closed down for certain kind of a range. That is why the order is going to work out for you. So this is how your system can work around uh, uh, in terms of printing the range. Whereas in for, you can do it for as many as numbers you want. So maybe if I want to print this particular table for, let's say, 300, right? So, or 1000 or whatever, let's say 599 I wanted to print. So this is what you get in terms of your particular set of for construct. So this is how we can actually work around in terms of when we know that we have to do an iteration or do a loop over a particular set of values. Generally, for loop is used with your uh, arrays or and a lot of different kind of structures. Sometimes it has been used for the linked list as well, queues as well. So it depends upon you how you wanted to have them integrated into your program. But while, do while, and the for loop, it allows you to iterate through a particular set of classes, and that is what exactly happens when you are actually working on an application which is database oriented. Okay, because you have to pull the data from the database and then process it and then further sends it back to the to the database itself for further storing purpose. So this is what you have corresponding to your all set of things. Now there is one very important keyword that you can use within these loops. So let's say I wanted to skip a particular step in this particular loop, and I wanted to print that particular some message corresponding to that particular construct. So what I can do is there is a continue keyword which has been used. Now if my count is equals to equals to, because we know we are doing a equality check, so 2 equals to are required. It's not the assignments, it's a check, right? So if equals to if count equals to 5 happens, then the printing must not be done. Okay, so I'm writing cout. Let's skip the multiple of 5, right? So that is what I have been writing. So this continue statement will allow me to skip that particular section, right? So the table which I wanted to print is, let's say, for 2. Let's skip the particular multiple of 5. Now what happens is, because we were using multiple lines of actions after this particular if construct, the continue happened for the whole scenario. So this continue was not treated as part of this particular if construct. So if I wanted to make that particular thing as a part of this construct, I have to put this particular construct as a curly braces part. So this is one of the another important aspect, or maybe your placement interviewer can ask you about this particular thing. Okay, so if I do it right now, if I run this particular program now, what you will going to see is, if I'm going to type in for the table of 2, you can see instead of printing the value of 5, it is going to do the skip and then take you towards the next number, that is the 6th number. So if you wanted to skip any of the particular iterative step, then you can utilize this continue statement correspondingly. Or you can also simply do a break here, right? You say that until 4 you print the table. After that, I do not want to print that table. So instead of using continue, you use break in here. And then let me show you how it is going to behave correspondingly. So I'm typing in 2 again. It will print up to 4, and the rest all will be left. So what happens is, once this break statement has been encountered, it is going to stop executing the actions further, and it will take you out from this particular construct, this particular set of construct, and then do the return for the main method. That's it. So this is what is the basic utilization of your particular break statement, continue statement. There is another statement which is go to statement, which is used for you jumping to a specific conditions, right? So that is where you can look for. So jump conditions we can look at the later part. Let me quickly move towards the functions. I'll quickly take another 10 minutes. I know it's almost it's 12 o'clock. I was supposed to finish it by 12, but I went into much of the details of the control structure constructs, and I also wanted to show you how you can do it in Raptor for your benefit, for your particular benefit, because Raptor is one tool which allows you to do a lot of different kind of experimentation, and it helps you to understand that what are the different steps which are there. I think Vaishnavi is asking for uh, between 20, but 20 is also multiple of 5. Then why it's not showing? Let's skip. Okay, so what actually I did is, if you look at the logic, what I actually created, Vaishnavi, the logic was when this count becomes 5, right? Only at that particular point of time it should skip. So the message which I written is not in the right construct. Let's skip the count 5 thing. Okay, so that is what could be the right message here. So I was quickly typing in, so that's why I've written multiple of 5. So if you wanted to do that, multiple of 5 should not be printed in that particular case. What you need to do is you need to do a check correspondingly. So maybe uh, this particular logic is to be checked, and then on the basis of that you can do it. So maybe you can give it a try in next lecture. Maybe we'll look into this. We need to skip to the functions first, right? So that we should be able to go through that section as well in next 15 minutes, right? And then we take your questions. Okay, so functions are again similar to, like, if you talk about this particular code itself, this section, this is a main function, right? And this main function is actually having a return type and a particular control structure. So let me take you to the particular this part. Okay, so this is what you have for the function. So you have a main function, and any function, if you talk about, it's not only the main, any function, it is going to have a return type, right? Now this return type could be built-in return type, or user-defined return type, or a derived return type. Okay. If you have skipped my second lecture or first lecture, actually go to my YouTube channel, and they are already being recorded while we were doing the live webinar, and you can review it. So return type, that is followed by the function name, right? And that is this will be followed by, because this is a signature of complete function, so everything is important. Then you have a curly braces started, then you have a arguments. Now it could be argument, one single argument, you have 0 arguments, or you have more than one arguments, right? And then maybe you have arguments till n, and then it will be starting with the curly braces and curly braces close. In between you can have n number of lines, like we have in R, this particular program. So this is the data type or return type, you can say. Okay, this is the name of the function, this is the parenthesis that we have right now. There are no arguments which are being passed on, and then there is a curly braces which is being started, which goes till the end, where we have written the return statement, right? Now this return statement is again important, so you have to write a return at the end, and 0 is being given as a main return type value. Why? because a lot of operating system, when you work on the main functions are actually being called by the operating system kernels, right? They are being, first place from where the execution of your program gets started. Now, because program is supposed to be get started, it is started by the operating system, and the operating system actually expects something in return. It generally, what happens is, whenever an operating system is initiating a process, uh, it is uh, it is deemed to have the exit condition or exit value, so that it should be able to understand that what was the process status when it got exited. It was a success, it was some error, it was some kind of failure which happened during the logic, all that stuff. So returning zero value to the operating system from the main is actually indicating that everything was fine and the program did well without any problem. Whereas if I wanted to indicate to the operating system, if let's say I'm doing some kind of project in which I have to do some memory management thing, and I need to tell operating system that, okay, there has been some error, show a blue screen of death and restart the program. So in that case, I send some exit. Maybe number 3 represents that particular part. So I will be returning, instead of writing 0, I will be writing 3 over there. Okay, so this is what is the purpose why we are returning some value from the main function itself. I'm talking about the main only. There are another functions which we are using. They have different purposes for their return types, right? So any function, it will going to have a return type, function name, argument list in parentheses, and a block of code which is going to definitely have a return type if there is any return type which is provided. And this return type and the return type what we are using should be of same type. Make sure that, otherwise there will be an error which is being pointed by your compiler. Okay, or some explicit typecasting will be done, implicit typecasting will be done by that, right? So if I'm talking about a basic function in C++, the prototyping is one of the best things which you should do. Now, what is prototyping? Prototyping is just declaring the signature of the function. So let's say I wanted to do an addition operation. So maybe I'm writing a function int add. This add function will have 2 arguments. Let's say this add function is for adding 2 numbers, right? So let's say int f and int s. So f represents the first number, s represents the second number, and I'm going to write a particular return statement, and that return statement will do f plus s, right? Now, if you notice, I have directly written this particular expression over here with the return statement, right? You could also do it as int c equals to f plus s, and then you could have replaced this particular expression by c, right? Now, why I did this particular part, because I wanted to save a memory on the local variable, right? So it's a best practice if you skip this particular thing and you do it right away, and if there is only one single instruction to be executed. Now, this is the basic definition of a particular function that you are doing. So we have a return type. The return statement is going to return the similar type what we have as a return type of that particular function. We have a name of the function and we have an argument list. Now, what about the prototype? Now, this is the definition. Prototype is supposed to be done and at the top of the particular function, particular program, so that your compiler should be able to know that there is some kind of function which has been defined into this. So how the prototyping is done? You simply write int add, that means return type, what is the name of the function, and then you can simply write int and int, okay, and that will be followed by a semicolon. So what you have done is, you have not defined the variable here, but just you define what type of argument are we storing it for this particular okay. So this is what your prototype for compiler. So compiler knows in advance that, okay, there is a function inside this particular program which is going to have this kind of return type and these number of arguments, and this they have these type of values to be stored for. So this is very important. You should always do a prototyping. It allows your compiler to optimize your code a lot. You're doing a web program, right? Use the function prototyping for the large programs whenever you want. Okay, so this gives a lot of flexibility in terms of your performance part. So this particular thing is actually also going to help you in terms of your overloading, because addition operation is not only for the two methods. It can two arguments. It could be for the three arguments, right? So the prototyping could be int, add, and then int, and int. So this is another prototype which is separate from this. So they are not same, they are separate. Okay. So for this, the definition can be int, add, and then let's say int a, int b, and c, which could be let's say using a return statement a plus b plus c, and that's it, right? So this definition is different and this definition is different. So what we are actually doing is we are actually doing an overload of this particular add function. This is what is called overloading, right? When you are utilizing one function with more than one type of action, right? So you have actually done an overloading of that particular function, where the same functionality has been done but with different set of arguments. Okay, so this is what is there in terms of your particular function and the function overloading. So let's look into the code to understand this particular part. I'll quickly take another 10 minutes to demo, and then we will open the house for the for your queries. In the meantime, you can type in your queries in the comment section. Okay, so Deepak is saying that there is a problem in the voice. I hope it should be okay now. This is actually because of the network bandwidth. The place where I am, sometime network issues happen. So anyways, I'm just continuing. Hope the audio is okay. So what we can do is, I'm just going to skip this particular thing. I'm going to delete this for section, right? Okay, so this is the main method. Apart from this, I'm going to do the same addition operation. Okay. Yeah, thanks Deepak for confirming. So I'm going to write int add, right? And I'm going to write int f number, and then int s number. Okay. So this is the first method definition I have. So same thing, I can uh, do a function prototyping at the top. So I can give the names of the variables, or maybe I can give it without the names of the variables, right? So here I'm going to do 3 different prototyping. So I'm going to do it for int arguments. I'm going to do it for the float arguments as well. So maybe I'm doing it for float inputs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually do it for do this program for 4 different methods, right? I'm defining 4 different methods. One is for integer additions of 2 numbers and 3 numbers, and one set is for the float addition of 2 numbers and 3 numbers. So let's say this, and first number, second number, and third number. Okay, so same, I'm doing the definition for so maybe I do a return statement f number plus s number, and that will be returned. Okay, and same we can do it here as well. And here I'm going to do this thing for third number as well. Now I'm going to make a copy of both these functions, and I'm just going to change the int to float. So this is how the differences are going to have in terms of your function usages. It depends upon what value you are passing them. It depends upon what is their return type, and then it is going to do a selection automatically, that function call and which function not to call. Okay, so here if I go for, let's say, within the main method, because till now we have only did the declaration. Okay, so let's say I do the explicit values uh, to be put into the system. So let's say int a, b, and c. So I'm just giving a declaration for them, and I'm doing float x, y, and z, so that I should be able to do the work correspondingly. So a equals to, let's say, 1, b equals to, let's say, 2, and c equals to, let's say, 3. Okay, similarly x equals to 1.1, uh, y equals to 2.2, and z equals to 3.2. Okay, so these are the things which I have already done. So just to show you that what is the possible function call that is happening, cout int method, two variables, and for this int methods, three variables. Here I'm going to have float method, and again I have float method with three variables. Okay, so we have the function definition, four function definitions for different type of values. So we did the definition, we did the prototyping at the top by simply declaring their signatures, and then we actually initialize our variables. Now let's say we are going to give a call. So there are two ways how we can do the call. So let's say int result, or maybe int result equals to, what was the name of the function? Add function. Okay, so how many parameters do I need to give? Let's say two parameters I wanted to give it to this particular system. So similarly I can do it for the float as well. Okay, and then I'm going to give it as a x and y as two values. So cout integer call, integer call is actually going to give me int result, and similarly here I actually need to change this to float result, so we can give it as this is a float call, and we are going to print the float result. Okay, so this is what you have corresponding to your things. Okay, so let me run it for you. Right, so it is taking some time. Okay, so I need to first close this. Now it will run. Great, it says some error is there before token. Great. Did I put dot here? Yeah, I think I put a dot here. That is why it was giving me an error. All right, so it is going to do some printing. Int method, two variables, integer call, three, float method, two variables, float call, three. Just 1 minute. I need to add endels so that we can have a clarity on what is to be printed. Great. All right, so this is what you get. So you are sending an int method call. So int method, two variables are getting the call, and then it is being printed. Whereas the float method, two variables are going to get the call, and the float call will have this particular printing available over here. So this is how the difference is. So integer ke liye integer value will be displayed, and float ke liye float value will be displayed. So that's the biggest difference with what you have in terms of your function calling. First function definition with the prototyping, and then the function calling with the definition from wherever you wanted to call, either in the main method or maybe in another subsequent methods as well. right? Now there is one last concept which is there with us, that is the inline function, right? So inline functions are similar to your basic functions itself. The only difference is that you actually define them here as an inline. So if I write inline corresponding to this particular function definition, this is going to make this function inline, meaning that whenever the compiler is going to compile this particular program during the pre-processing phase, these instructions will be going to be replaced at the place where it has been called. So that means the add will be replaced by this particular set of instructions. Now here there is a restriction. So because we have printed this particular value, so if I remove this, this inline function will be doing the replacement over the call. So that means when I'm saying this, I'm saying that this add will be replaced by this particular expression itself directly, right? Because function calling is actually going to cost you in terms of your switching, context switching, which is happening between the program instructions. There is a jump instruction that has been happening. So if you have studied the computer architecture, you must have studied about the jump instructions within that, branch instructions you can call them. So if a function call is happening, the branch instruction is going to jump from one memory location to the another memory location. So if you know that this function which I'm defining separately is only for the purpose of abstraction of my expression calculation, but it should be directly included to the place where it is being called. So in that particular case, you should be using the inline keyword in front of your function signature when you are defining it. Okay, so if you are defining this particular inline keyword in front of your function, then this particular expression will directly be being replaced over here, and your calculation will be much faster. So the only condition is when you are using this inline function, you should not be uh, having a larger function, more than two or three lines of expressions, right? And generally, anything which has been done for the calculation, that is uh, where the inline function is going to be utilized. One more thing which you should always remember is that if you are using a static variable, we are going to discuss it once we are going to start our class topic discussion. So static variables, if you are defining them inside the functions, then those functions cannot be inline functions, right? If the function is a recursive function, we are going to discuss this recursive function in our next lecture. If the function is a recursive function, that means the function itself, then in that case, it is not possible to define that function as an inline function. So these are two, three rules which you should be considering while having the definition for the inline functions. So there is one more topic which has been left, that is call by value and call by reference. So what we are doing is we are stopping our lecture over here because we have already passed 12:20 to 20 minutes above what we had decided for the time of webinar. So the house is open for the questions. I can see there is only one person who is live. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. So let me see the previous comments if any of them are here. So it's fine. Vaishnavi, I have answered your question. Deepak is asking, with the break statements, it's skipping all the counts after 4. Yes, Deepak, it definitely skips all the count after 4 because break statement is meant for that. Break statement is supposed to put an exit from a particular control structure. So that is why we are using the break statement. So Deepak again. All right. So I don't know when you're commenting, it says it writes here as invalid. May I know your name in case if you are okay with it? You are asking where are you based in? So I'm based in Ambala. India, and I hope you are also from India. I'm not sure uh, why it is showing invalid for your particular name. Other users is displaying the usernames for them. All right, so I think we are not having any further questions. Shall I wait for you? Like you were asking me for where I'm based in. I'm based in Ambala itself. So, is there anything I can help you with that? Okay, so I think we are done with our particular set of topics. There are a few couple of subtopics which are left. We'll be covering them in the next upcoming webinar. So, thank you very much for joining in, and hope to see you tomorrow again. Okay, so Deepak is coming up with another question with the continue statement. It's not skipping, it's just giving the line which is wrote on the cout. So Deepak, what exactly happens is, I tell you, break and continue, both of these statements are used for a very special purpose, right? So if I'm using a break, that means I actually want to exit immediately from that particular loop. Okay, that's the purpose of using break, or that particular construct wherever the break is being used. Whereas if I'm using a continue says that wherever the continue instruction is encountered, we need to skip all the instructions in that particular iteration which are left after that continue statement. Okay, so if continue has been encountered, whatever the instructions after that particular continue statement are available, they will be skipped and the loop will go to the next iteration. So that's the basic difference that is there in your continue and break statement. Break simply exits the control, whereas continue only exits that current iteration and then take you to the next loop iteration and follow the particular flow. So that is what is the basic difference between these two. So I hope the Deepak, I have made some clarity on both these things. So Deepak is asking, can I learn cybersecurity from your academy? Deepak, I am not a cybersecurity expert. I single-handedly manage this academy. So it's quite difficult for me to go and get the concepts of cybersecurity for you. So I'm very sorry for that. I'm more into the programming part. I'm more into cloud computing, machine learning, data analytics, right? So all these concepts I am proficient with, and in fact, for cloud, I'm working as a professional freelancer as well. For machine learning, I'm on an intermediate level. So if you are interested, we can have our conversation further added to that. But anyways, cybersecurity is not my forte, so I am sorry for that. There is no service corresponding to it. Yeah, Python and Java is there. Yes, definitely. So in case if you are considering for any help for Python or Java, I'm available for that. So I have been working in Java uh, as a programmer for more than 3 years. So I know how things work in that. So we can have Python. I'm currently working in, because machine learning, I'm working with the neural networks and all that stuff. So I know how exactly this programming language works around. So moreover, no. Oh, Vaishnavi asked for the data structures. Yes, definitely. Data structures. I'm quite proficient with data structures. Can I have your contact number? So what you can do is, I'm just displaying my particular email address. This is my email address where you can actually connect with me. We can start the conversation over the email address, and then we can share the phone number. This is a public forum. Deepak, I'm sorry, I'm not able to share the number here itself, but you send me an email directly, and we can have our conversations over here. Invalid is asking me for the tensors. Yes, I am working on TensorFlow library, so I can help you out with that. No issues in that particular thing. Anyways, right now we are concentrating on the C++ section. If you have any specific queries with respect to today's session or previous session, we can have that here. Otherwise, we can continue the discussion for other topics on my email address, which has been displayed over on the screen, which is hello@superwits.com. You can share your interests over there, and then we can proceed with the other discussions. So that is what we have. So hope I'm through with all the questions which are there with you for this particular session. So it's already 12:30, so we should be stopping for now. Finally, thank you very much for joining in, and I hope you are learning from this particular series of sessions on C++. We have covered 3 episodes now. The first was very basic. Second was a bit about data types, and now third one is more about the constructs and the functions. And the upcoming sessions, we have more things to work around. So I suggest you to please go through all the concepts again. Maybe you can go through the tutorialspoint.com website, or maybe you can go through c++.com as well, right? So that you should have a refresher of all those concepts, because we are going to utilize them in all the further sessions. So it's very important for you. So thank you very much for joining in, and right now it's time 12:30, and see you tomorrow at 11 again with other topics which are more specific toward building up the concepts of C++. Specifically, we are also covering what we have left for today as well. So thank you. Bye-bye.